BlackRock's latest efforts include everything from substantially increasing the number of so-called ESG funds its clients can invest in, to removing investment offerings in companies big in the thermal coal production business, to pushing the companies BlackRock clients own to adhere to UN Sustainable Development Goals such as gender equality and affordable and clean energy. Now that's all well and good if you want your money invested that way, but the problem is that BlackRock CEO Larry Fink has actually said that getting the best return for your money is not his top goal. Investors ought to let him pick and choose the goals according to this ESG. And yet, to the hypocrisy point, they want to open up in China in a big way. Well, China's terrible on social justice. They monitor their people, the social credit scores. They're terrible on corporate governance. It's all controlled by the Communist Party, and they're terrible on the environment. They're the worst polluter on the planet. And so all of this about BlackRock is bad. Now I want to tell you something else. In the recovery package that just came out, the recovery package gives BlackRock the control and the authority over the federal trillions of dollars that are being dispersed and over what the Federal Reserve is doing in investing in bonds and so forth, and the company adheres to these principles. That's pretty dangerous, don't you think?
Yeah, well, I didn't know that until you just mentioned it, but I was going to go into the government package anyway, linking it to BlackRock, because when you mention ESG and social justice and everything, what they never mention is God's justice. God's justice was pretty simple. Take care of the widows, orphans, those in prison, take care of the poor, right? Whenever you hear these fancy leftist terms that the neo-Marxists are throwing around, and you look 10 years down the line or look at what the World Bank has done, how's sub-Saharan Africa doing 40 years after the World Bank goes in with all their fancy terms? No better. It's a flatliner.
Right.
How are the poverty pockets in the United States of America doing? In New York City and Chicago and Los Angeles and San Francisco? All these leftist groups are talking about green energy and social justice and taking care of the poor. What they don't tell you is what I learned in Congress. All the money gets channeled through the swamp in D.C., funneled off into their pockets. And look at what happened to this last congressional payout package. All the money went to the rich, bigger firms that are connected, and not as much went to the small firms, the forgotten men and women across the country. And so it all sounds nice. They wrap it in a bow with all these neat sounding terms. It all gets shoveled up to the rich. On the left, by the way, the conservatives don't have an equal counterweight on the other side. And that's why we're talking about the economic war room. You need to weaponize your finances and share this message with your friends, because the left has all of this program with huge power, right? The most glaring example politically was Bill and Hillary Clinton Foundation. I think it got up to $2 billion from these global elitists on the left using all this propaganda terminology.
It's not hard to get there when you get paid.
And what happened to that fund as soon as she didn't get elected? It turned into vapor.
Yep.
Right? So that it's kind of clear they don't care about the poor. None of that money went to the poor. It was all propping up the left and their political project.